The stars glittered against the black void of space as the Valthrian scout ship slowed from faster-than-light travel. The vessel was sleek and powerful, its dark purple hull absorbing rather than reflecting light. Inside the command center, Captain Vexaloran stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin shimmering under the soft blue lights. "Report," he ordered, his voice deep and resonant. "Unknown solar system, Captain," replied his science officer. 8 planets orbiting, a yellow star. The third planet shows signs of civilization. Primitive, but present. Vexaloran's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. The Valthrians had conquered 17 solar systems across the Orion arm of the galaxy. Their technology was centuries beyond most species they encountered. Their military might was unmatched. This would be just another routine expansion of the glorious Valthrian Empire. "Send a probe," he commanded. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what we're dealing with before we report back to High Command." The small probe launched silently from the scout ship, racing toward the blue-green planet. Its sensors immediately began collecting data, transmitting back to the mothership. The science officer's eyes widened as the information appeared on his screens. "Captain, this is unusual. The species calls itself human. They have achieved space travel, but only within their own system. Their technology is primitive by our standards, perhaps 200 years behind ours. But their population is large, over 8 billion. Vexaloran moved to the screen, his 4 eyes narrowing as he studied the images. Cities spread across continents, vehicles that still used fossil fuels, weapons that relied on chemical explosives. Pathetic. "Any threat assessment?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "None, Captain. Their most powerful weapons couldn't penetrate our weakest shields. Their communication systems are easily intercepted. Their military forces are divided among nations rather than unified." The captain nodded. "Perfect. Transmit our findings to High Command. Recommend immediate contact and subjugation protocol." 3 weeks later, the humans noticed something was wrong. Strange signals appeared in deep space monitoring stations. Unusual radiation patterns were detected near Jupiter. Something was coming. In the White House Situation Room, President Grace Warren sat at the head of the table, her face grave as she listened to reports. At 62, she had seen many crises during her time in office, but nothing like this. "Madam President," said General Daniel Peters, "NASA and Space Force confirm these are artificial signals. They're not random and they're not natural phenomena. Something is out there and it's headed our way." The president looked around the table at her advisors. "Options? We've activated all early warning systems," said Secretary of Defense Ben Harris. "Military forces worldwide are on high alert. But truthfully, ma'am, if this is what we think it is, first contact with an alien civilization, we have no playbook." Dr. Leah Martinez, the nation's top astrophysicist, spoke up. "Madam President, based on the trajectory and speed, whatever, this will reach Earth orbit in approximately 72 hours. The good news is they're slowing down, which suggests they don't intend to crash into us." The president nodded slowly. "So we have 3 days to prepare for the most important meeting in human history." She turned to her communications director. "I want a joint statement with the UN within the hour. No panic, no speculation, just facts. The world needs to know." News spread quickly. Around the globe, reactions ranged from panic to celebration. Religious leaders called for prayer. Scientists worked frantically to establish possible communication protocols. Military forces prepared for the worst. Admiral Frank Miller of the United Nations Space Commission was chosen to lead the human delegation. At 55, he had a distinguished naval career before transitioning to the International Space Program. His team included military strategist Olivia Thompson, xenobiologist Dr. Alan Clark, and diplomatic specialist Lisa Rodriguez. "We go in, assuming peaceful intentions," Admiral Miller told his team as they prepared, "but ready for anything else. The fate of our species might well depend on what happens in the next few days." On the morning of contact, 7 massive ships appeared. In Earth's orbit, they were unlike anything humans had ever built. smooth, almost organic in appearance with no visible engines or weapons. The largest ship, nearly a mile long, positioned itself over the designated meeting point in neutral space. A smaller, human vessel carried Admiral Miller's team up to meet the visitors. The trip was silent, each person lost in their own thoughts about what awaited them. "Remember," Miller said as they approached the meeting point, "we represent all of humanity now. Not countries, not ideologies. All of us." The docking procedure was surprisingly simple. The alien ship extended what appeared to be an airlock that perfectly matched the specifications of the human vessel. After confirming breathable atmosphere, the team floated through the connection tube. They were met by tall, four-armed beings with scaled purple skin and four eyes set in elongated faces. The aliens wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor, gleaming with unknown metals and adorned with symbols. One stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Krithven of the Valthrian Empire," it said, the words translated through devices the aliens carried. "We welcome you to the greater galactic community." Admiral Miller stepped forward as well. "I am Admiral Frank Miller of Earth. On behalf of humanity, we are honored to meet you." The alien's upper eyes blinked slowly. "Your species is young," Ambassador Krithven stated, "but shows potential. Under Valthrian guidance, you will advance centuries within decades." Dr. Clark frowned at the phrasing but kept silent as Admiral Miller responded diplomatically. "We look forward to cultural and scientific exchange that benefits both our peoples." The meeting continued for several hours. The Valthrians proposed what they called a cultural exchange program, establishing bases on Earth to share technology and knowledge. Their terms were generous on the surface, but Lisa Rodriguez noticed how they sidestepped questions about other species and their own history of expansion. Back on their vessel, returning to Earth, the team compared notes. "They're hiding something," Olivia Thompson said bluntly. "Their body language, here if we can call it that, changed whenever we asked about their relations with other species." Dr. Clark nodded. "And did you notice how they kept referring to us as promising and developing, the way an adult talks about a child?" Admiral Miller looked out the viewport at the alien ships. "They see us as primitive. Maybe we are compared to them. But that might give us an advantage. They're underestimating us." He turned to his team with determination in his eyes. "When we get back, I'm ordering contingency plans activated. We'll participate in their exchange program, learn everything we can about them, their technology, their weaknesses. But behind closed doors, we prepare." "Prepare for what?" asked Lisa Rodriguez. "For the possibility that their idea of guidance isn't what we would choose for ourselves," Miller replied grimly. "They see us as children. Let them underestimate us while we prepare. Because if their intentions aren't peaceful, they'll learn that humanity doesn't submit easily." As their ship descended toward Earth, the massive Valthrian vessels loomed above like silent predators. The first contact had been made. The true test of humanity was about to begin. 6 months passed since the Valthrians arrived on Earth. Their bases sprang up across the planet like gleaming metal flowers. The largest sat in the Nevada desert, a towering structure of purple-black metal that reflected the sun during day and glowed with soft blue light at night. Smaller outposts appeared in major cities worldwide: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Rio de Janeiro. The aliens called them cultural centers. Humans had other suspicions. Sub-Commander Pel Thax supervised the Nevada base, his forearms often busy with multiple tasks as he received reports from the other outposts. He stood now at the main observation deck, looking out at the desert landscape, so different from his homeworld of endless oceans and floating cities. "Progress report," he demanded of his assistant. "The humans continue to be cooperative, Sub-Commander," the assistant replied. "Their leaders seem grateful for the medical technology we've shared. Disease rates have dropped by 30% worldwide." Pel Thax made a clicking sound with his mouth parts, a Valthrian sign of satisfaction. "And our resource survey? Nearly complete. This planet is rich in minerals we need. The humans have barely scratched the surface of what's available, and their population would provide an excellent labor force. Good. High Command will be pleased. Keep the humans distracted with trinkets while we finish the preparations. The annexation begins in 3 months. At the United Nations Space Commission headquarters in Geneva, Dr. Alan Clark bent over a microscope, examining a sample of Valthrian medical technology. The small device was supposed to cure human diseases by targeting harmful cells. It worked remarkably well, perhaps too well. Something about its design bothered him. His assistant, a young researcher named Emma Patel, entered the lab carrying coffee. "Any breakthroughs?" she asked. Dr. Clark straightened up with a grimace, rubbing his lower back. "Maybe. These devices are incredible, but look at this." He motioned her to the microscope. "See how the nanites organize themselves? There's unnecessary complexity here, extra code that doesn't seem related to the medical function." Emma peered through the lens. "What does it do then?" "I'm not sure yet, but I've been tracking similar patterns in all the technology they've shared. Hidden functions, backdoors. It's like they're giving us smartphones with secret features only they can activate." The door to the lab slid open and Olivia Thompson walked in. Her military uniform was crisp, but dark circles under her eyes revealed the long hours she'd been working. "Dr. Clark," she said, "we need to talk, privately." Emma nodded and left the room. When the door closed, Olivia's professional demeanor slipped slightly, revealing worry beneath. "Tell me you found something," she said, "because what I'm seeing doesn't look good." Dr. Clark nodded. "All their tech has hidden functions, but that's not all." He walked to his computer and pulled up a series of satellite images. "These are thermal scans of their bases taken over the last month. Energy output is increasing. They're powering up for something." Olivia studied the images. "The Admiral needs to see this. We're having a classified briefing tomorrow." The next day, in a secure underground room beneath the Pentagon, Admiral Miller stood before a small group of military and scientific leaders from around the world. The room was swept for bugs hourly, and electronic jammers hummed in the background. "Thank you all for coming," the Admiral began. "What you're about to hear stays in this room." Dr. Clark presented his findings first, showing the hidden functions. In Valthrian technology, they're assessing our weaknesses while appearing benevolent. The technology they've shared has backdoors. They could disable everything with a single command. Next, Olivia Thompson showed military assessments. They've mapped every major human military installation. Their ships regularly scan our weapons, systems, power grids, and communication networks. This isn't cultural exchange, it's reconnaissance. The Russian general, Viktor Baranov, spoke up. "If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. Their ships outmatch anything we have." "They don't want to destroy us," Admiral Miller said grimly. "They want to use us, our planet's resources, our people as labor. Destruction wastes valuable assets." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "So what do we do?" asked the Chinese representative, General Lin. "Our countries can barely agree on trade policies. How do we unite against this threat?" Admiral Miller pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared over the table. Operation Shadow Shield. For the past 5 months, while officially cooperating with the Valthrians, we've been preparing in secret. The display showed underground facilities around the world connected by lines representing communication networks. Every nation represented here has contributed. Underground bases, shielded from Valthrian sensors. Reverse-engineered technology based on what they've shared, but without the backdoors. A communication system they can't detect or jam. In the mountains of Colorado, inside a massive cave system retrofitted as a military base, Major Sam Wilson led a team of engineers and soldiers from a dozen countries. The irony wasn't lost on him. Nations that had been enemies for decades now worked side by side, united by a common threat. "Run the test again," he ordered, as technicians adjusted. A device that looked like a smaller version of Valthrian weapons. "We need to be sure the shield holds against their energy pulses." The weapon fired, a burst of blue energy striking a shimmering barrier. The shield flickered but held. Sam's second-in-command, Captain Nora Chen, checked the readings. "Power drain is still too high," she reported. The shields will only last 15 minutes at full strength. It's progress, Sam replied. A month ago, we couldn't stop their weapons at all. Keep working. A young soldier rushed into the testing chamber. Major Wilson, Admiral Miller is on the secure line, priority 1. Sam hurried to the communication room where a scrambled video feed showed the Admiral's face. Report, Major. Miller said without preamble. We've made progress on defense, sir. The shield technology works, though not for long. The modified EMP devices are ready for testing against their systems. Weapon adaptation is on schedule. Admiral Miller nodded. Good, because we may have less time than we thought. Dr. Clark's analysis suggests they're accelerating their timeline. We have maybe 3 months before they make their real move. Sam straightened his shoulders. We'll be ready when they do, sir. You'd better be, Major, because when they show their true intentions, humanity will need every advantage we can get. As the call ended, Sam stared at the dark screen, feeling the weight of responsibility. Outside, billions of humans went about their daily lives, most believing the Valthrians brought only benefits. They couldn't be told the truth. Not yet. The aliens monitored everything, and panic would only trigger their plans sooner. For now, the Resistance worked in shadows, preparing for a war most of humanity didn't know was coming. A war against an enemy who thought victory was already theirs. But if there was one thing humans had learned throughout their violent history, it was how to fight against overwhelming odds. And the Valthrians were about to learn that lesson too. The attack began at dawn on a Tuesday. Without warning, Valthrian ships descended from their orbital positions, hovering over major cities worldwide. Smaller craft emerged from the cultural centers that had been established in the past 6 months. Their weapons were not designed to destroy but to subdue. In New York, blue energy fields spread over the streets, disabling all electronics. Cars stopped. Phones died. Power grids failed. People poured from buildings in panic as Valthrian soldiers with 4 arms and gleaming armor marched through the streets. Remain calm, their amplified voices announced in perfect English. The Valthrian Empire has assumed control of your planet. Cooperate, and you will not be harmed. Similar scenes played out in London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and hundreds of other cities. The human military responded with jets, tanks, and soldiers, but their weapons failed when targeted by Valthrian disruptor beams. Fighter jets fell from the sky like dead birds. Tanks became useless metal boxes. From his command ship in orbit, High Commander Zextar watched with satisfaction as the conquest proceeded smoothly. On the main view screen, reports from around the planet showed minimal resistance and low casualty rates. Perfect. Dead humans couldn't work in the mines or factories the Empire planned to build. Phase 1 complete, High Commander, reported his second-in-command. Major population centers are under control. Human military response has been neutralized. Phase 2, ready to begin on your order. Zextar made a gesture of approval with his lower arms. Excellent. Begin Phase 2. I want government leaders secured within the hour. At the White House, President Grace Warren was rushed to an underground bunker as Valthrian ships appeared, over Washington. Secret Service agents surrounded her, but their weapons were useless against the 4-armed soldiers, who phased through walls using advanced technology. Within minutes, the President and her cabinet were captured. The people of Earth will resist, President Warren told the Valthrian commander who approached her. This isn't over. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. It was over before it began, human. Your species never had a chance. In Geneva, the United Nations building was surrounded by Valthrian forces. Diplomats from around the world were rounded up and held in the main assembly hall. Ambassador Krithven, who had once spoken of friendship and cultural exchange, now stood before them with cold authority. Your world is now part of the glorious Valthrian Empire, the ambassador announced. Accept this reality and your transition will be peaceful. Resist and suffer the consequences. Throughout the day, human forces fell before the alien technology. Communications were jammed, preventing coordination. Transport was disabled, stopping reinforcements. Weapons were rendered useless by energy fields that seemed to predict their use before they were fired. By sunset, As High Commander Zex Tar looked down at the blue-green planet from orbit, he believed the conquest was complete. Reports from all command centers confirmed major resistance had been crushed. Human leaders were captured or in hiding. The planet's major resources were secured. "Begin extraction preparations," he ordered. "I want mining operations established within a week. The Emperor expects results quickly." But the High Commander was wrong. The conquest was far from complete. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in the facility Major Sam Wilson had prepared, a different scene unfolded. "Status report," demanded Olivia Thompson, now the acting commander of Earth's resistance forces. Around her, a command center hummed with activity. Screens showed the devastation around the world, but also pockets of hidden strength. "They've taken all major cities," reported Captain Nora Chen. "Government leaders are captured or in hiding, but our underground network is intact. All shadow bases report operational status." Sam Wilson entered the command center, his face grim but determined. "Shield technology is holding. They haven't detected us. The jammers Dr. Clark developed are working. Our communications are still secure." Olivia nodded. "And the weapons?" "Ready for deployment. The modified EMP devices will work against their technology. We've distributed them to resistance cells worldwide. We're just waiting for your order." Olivia looked around the room at the faces of soldiers and civilians from dozens of nations. In the past 6 months, they had prepared for this day while maintaining the illusion of ignorance and submission. Thanks to Dr. Clark's discovery of the hidden functions in Valthrian technology, they had developed countermeasures. Thanks to Admiral Miller's foresight, they had built this network of hidden bases and resistance fighters. Admiral Miller himself had been in Washington when the attack came. His status was unknown, likely captured, but his final order had been clear. "Wait until the enemy believes they've won, then strike when they least expect it." "The Valthrians think they've won," Olivia said to the room. "They think humans are beaten, but they've never fought against us before. They don't understand what humans do when pushed to the edge." She turned to Sam. "Activate Protocol Hydra." Sam nodded and moved to a secure terminal. He entered a series of codes, then placed his palm on a scanner. Throughout the underground facility, lights dimmed momentarily, then brightened as backup. "Power engaged. Protocol Hydra active," he announced. "All resistance cells receiving the signal." Around the world, in hidden bunkers and secret rooms, humans who had been selected and trained for this moment received the coded message. The counterattack had begun. In London, a group of civilians who had appeared to surrender suddenly produced small devices from hidden pockets. When activated, the devices emitted a targeted pulse that disabled the energy weapons of nearby Valthrian soldiers. The four-armed aliens, suddenly vulnerable, found themselves attacked by humans using simple tools: pipes, bats, kitchen knives. In Tokyo, resistance fighters emerged from underground tunnels built decades ago and forgotten by most. They planted EMP devices at the base of the Valthrian command center. When detonated, the alien technology failed, and the building systems went dark. In the Nevada desert, where the main Valthrian base sat like a dark monument to conquest, a team led by Dr. Clark's assistant Emma Patel approached under cover of darkness. Their mission was the most dangerous: to infiltrate the base and upload a virus into the Valthrian central computer system. A virus Dr. Clark had designed based on his study of their technology. Back in the Mountain Command Center, Olivia Thompson watched as the first reports of successful counterattacks came in. The Valthrians had expected submission after their show of force. They hadn't expected what humans had perfected over thousands of years of fighting each other: guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. "Send the message to all resistance cells," she ordered. "Operation Breaking Dawn is active. I want every Valthrian outpost hit within 24 hours. Let them learn what happens when they push humanity into a corner." Sam Wilson looked at the tactical display as points of light began to appear. Successful strikes against the invaders. "They thought they understood power," he said quietly. "Now they'll see humanity's wrath." In orbit, High Commander Zex Tar was about to retire to his quarters when the first alarm sounded. Then another. And another. Across the planet, Valthrian positions were under attack. Somehow, the humans were fighting back. Somehow, they had weapons that worked. The conquest, that had seemed complete, was suddenly, inexplicably, in jeopardy. High Commander Zexitar paced the bridge of his command ship, his forearms clasped tightly behind his back. 3 Valthrian outposts had gone silent simultaneously. At first, he had dismissed it as a communication glitch. Then a supply ship disappeared completely while entering Earth's atmosphere. Now reports of human resistance poured in from across the planet. "How is this possible?" he demanded, slamming a fist on the control panel. Their weapons were disabled, their communications jammed, their leaders captured. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "High Commander, it appears the humans were prepared for our attack. Somehow they anticipated our technology and developed countermeasures. The reports suggest they have devices that can disable our energy fields." Zextar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Their technology is primitive. They couldn't have developed such devices in the short time since our arrival, unless they were studying us from the beginning," suggested Sub-Commander Pelthax, who had just arrived from the surface. "Unless their cooperation was a deception." The thought was disturbing. The Valthrians had conquered 17 systems before Earth. None had ever managed to resist effectively after the initial takeover. The humans were supposed to be easy prey. "Find their headquarters," Zextar ordered. "Use the orbital scanners. Find where they're hiding and crush them. Now." In the hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Olivia Thompson studied the global situation map. Dozens of light points showed successful resistance operations. The Valthrian grip on Earth was weakening by the hour. "Nevada team reporting in," announced a communications officer. "They've successfully infiltrated the main Valthrian base. Dr. Patel is proceeding to the central computer core." Olivia nodded. "Tell them to hurry. The Valthrians will be using their orbital scanners to locate us. We need their network down. Before that happens." Sam Wilson entered the command center, followed by a team of technicians wheeling in a large device. It looked like a silver disc about 6 feet in diameter, covered with complex circuitry. "The EMP transmitter is ready," he reported. "Once activated, it will send a pulse through the atmosphere that should disable all Valthrian technology within a 1,000-mile radius. But it's a one-shot weapon. We'll burn out the circuitry when we use it." Olivia checked the time. "Hold for Dr. Patel's signal. If her virus upload succeeds, we won't need the EMP. If not, it's our backup plan." Inside the Nevada Valthrian base, Emma Patel and her small team moved carefully through service corridors. Dr. Clark's study of Valthrian technology had revealed a critical weakness. Their bases were designed with minimal internal security. The aliens were so confident in their external defenses that they never expected anyone to get inside. Emma, a small woman with steady hands and a brilliant mind, carried a specialized tablet computer developed by Dr. Clark. It contained the virus that could disable the Valthrian command network. All she needed was to reach a main terminal and connect the device. 2 guards ahead, whispered Ryan Foster, the team's security lead. He was a former Special Forces soldier who moved with surprising silence for his size. Emma nodded and pulled out a small disc-shaped device. "EMP grenade. Close your eyes." She slid the device down the corridor. When it activated, a soft pulse spread outward. The Valthrian guards' weapon systems died instantly, and the lights in their armor went dark. Before they could react, Ryan and another team member subdued them using simple tranquilizer guns, human technology that worked perfectly fine. "Central computer room should be through those doors," Emma said, checking the schematics Dr. Clark had provided. "Get me in there and I can upload the virus." Ryan nodded to his team. "Let's move." Around the world, human resistance fighters employed similar tactics. In Tokyo, led by a former video game designer named Kenji Nakamura, they used their knowledge of the city's complex underground tunnel system to move undetected between Valthrian positions, planting EMP devices and disrupting alien operations. In Rio de Janeiro, Local police officer Gabriela Mendez organized civilians into small strike teams, using their intimate knowledge of the favela's winding pathways to ambush Valthrian patrols and sabotage their equipment. In Cairo, historian Omar Hassan led a group that used ancient tunnels beneath the city, some dating back thousands of years and unknown to the aliens, to move resistance fighters and weapons. Each local group adapted to their unique environments and used what they had available. The Valthrians, accustomed to fighting conventional wars against conventional armies, found themselves increasingly confused and frustrated by the chaotic, unpredictable human response. In orbit, High Commander Zextar received more disturbing news. A major Valthrian supply base in what the humans called Australia had been completely overrun. The aliens there reported their weapons suddenly failing, followed by an attack from what seemed like ordinary civilians armed with primitive but effective weapons. "This is unacceptable," Zextar roared. "Send in the hunter-killer squads. I want these resistance cells found and eliminated." But the hunter-killer squads, elite Valthrian troops with advanced tracking technology, found their equipment malfunctioning upon entering Earth's atmosphere. Somehow, the humans had found a way to interfere with even their most sophisticated systems. In the Nevada base, Emma Patel reached the central computer core, a massive column of pulsing lights surrounded by control terminals. She connected her tablet to an access port and began the upload. "Hurry," Ryan urged, keeping watch at the door. "We've got movement in the corridors. They know we're here." Emma's fingers flew over the tablet screen. "Almost there. The virus is uploading. It's designed to spread through their entire network from this base to their ships in orbit. Once it's in, they won't be able to..." The door exploded inward. Valthrian soldiers poured through, their weapons powered by backup systems that had survived the localized EMP. Ryan and his team returned fire, using modified human weapons that Dr. Clark had designed. "Keep them back," Ryan shouted. "Emma needs more time." Emma focused on her tablet, ignoring the firefight behind her. 80%, 90, come on! A stray energy blast hit the terminal next to her, showering her with sparks. She ducked, but kept her hand steady on the connection. "Upload complete," she shouted triumphantly. "The virus is in their system." In the Mountain Command Center, a message appeared on the main screen. "Virus deployed." Olivia Thompson allowed herself a brief smile. "Send the signal worldwide. All..." Resistance cells moved to Phase 2. "Target their command structures and weapons depots." Sam Wilson checked the incoming data. "The virus is spreading through their network. Their ships in orbit are reporting system failures. Their communication grid is breaking down." Olivia nodded. "Now they fight on our terms." In orbit, High Commander Zextar watched in horror as his command ship systems began failing one by one. Navigation, weapons, life support remained functional, but everything else was shutting down or behaving erratically. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Some kind of cyber attack," his technology officer replied, frantically working at a terminal. "The humans have introduced a virus into our network. It's affecting all our systems planet-wide." Zextar couldn't believe it. The humans, with their primitive technology, had somehow created a virus that could infiltrate advanced Valthrian systems. It should have been impossible. "We did not anticipate this level of coordination," Subcommander Pelthax reported to his increasingly agitated superior. "These humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered." The High Commander stared at the blue-green planet below. What had seemed like an easy conquest was turning into a nightmare. For the first time in his long military career, Zextar felt something unfamiliar: doubt. 2 weeks after Emma Patel's successful virus upload, the global situation had changed dramatically. Human resistance forces had reclaimed most major cities. Valthrian soldiers, cut off from their command network and with malfunctioning weapons, fell back to their main bases. Their once smooth coordination was now in chaos. In the Mountain Command Center, Olivia Thompson met with the newly formed Earth Defense Council, military and civilian leaders who had escaped capture or been rescued during the counterattack. Among them was Admiral Miller, freed from a Valthrian detention center in Washington by special forces. The Valthrians still hold their primary bases and their ships in orbit, Olivia reported, pointing to a holographic map. Their technology is partially restored. They've managed to isolate some systems from our virus, but they're on the defensive now. Admiral Miller, thinner than before his capture, but with his determination intact, studied the map. It's time for the final phase. We take the fight to them. Sam Wilson nodded in agreement. My team has analyzed the captured Valthrian shuttles. We can use them to reach their command ship in orbit. They won't expect an attack from their own vessels. Small team, Admiral Miller decided. Get in, capture the High Commander, force a surrender. If we can take their leader, the rest will follow. Olivia looked around the room. I'll lead the mission. Not alone, Miller said firmly. I'm going too. Sam stepped forward. And me. I know their technology better than anyone except Dr. Clark, and he's needed here. The plan came together quickly. A team of 20, led by Miller, Thompson, and Wilson, would use 3 captured Valthrian shuttles to approach the command ship. They would dock using codes extracted from captured Valthrian officers, infiltrate the vessel, and make their way to the bridge where High Commander Zexatar directed what remained of the invasion force. Aboard the Valthrian command ship, the atmosphere was tense. Technicians worked frantically to restore systems and purge the human virus from their network. Security had been doubled around vital areas. High Commander Zexatar had not rested in days, his scaled skin dull from exhaustion. Status. Report, he demanded for the 100th time. Partial restoration of weapons and navigation, his second-in-command reported. Communication with surface bases is intermittent. The humans continue to press their advantage. We've lost control of most major cities. Zexatar made a harsh clicking sound, the Valthrian equivalent of a bitter laugh. How is this possible? They were primitive. We analyzed their technology, their weapons. They should have been easily conquered. Subcommander Pelthax, who had been evacuated from the Nevada base when it fell to human forces, spoke carefully. High Commander, I believe we made a fundamental error in our assessment. We judged their strength by their technology alone. We failed to account for their adaptability, their creativity under pressure. They fight unlike any species we've encountered. Zexatar was about to respond when an alert sounded. 3 of our shuttles approaching from the surface, a technician reported. They're transmitting valid identification codes. Our forces from the Brazil base? Zexatar asked hopefully. Unknown, High Commander. Communications are still compromised. But the codes are authentic. Allow them to dock, Zexatar ordered. We need all available troops. The 3 shuttles approached the massive Valthrian command ship, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight reflected from Earth below. Inside the lead shuttle, Olivia Thompson sat beside the pilot, a former Air Force officer trained on Valthrian. Controls through simulators developed by Sam's team. Docking codes accepted, the pilot reported. They're letting us in. Olivia turned to the troops in the cabin, a mix of special forces from a dozen nations, all wearing modified Valthrian armor taken from captured soldiers. Remember the plan. Quick and quiet until we reach the bridge. We want to take the High Commander alive if possible. The shuttles docked smoothly in the command ship's massive hangar bay. When the doors opened, the disguised human soldiers marched, out in perfect formation, mimicking Valthrian movement patterns as practiced. They passed genuine Valthrian troops in the corridors, who gave them only passing glances. Following the ship schematics extracted from the Valthrian database, they made their way toward the bridge. When they reached the final security checkpoint, a Valthrian officer held up one hand. Identification, he demanded. Sam Wilson, at the front of the group, activated a device on his wrist. It emitted a specific frequency that scrambled the officers' helmet systems. In the moment of confusion, the humans moved swiftly, subduing the guards without raising an alarm. Bridge is through these doors, Sam whispered, checking a scanner. I count 15 Valthrians inside, including what appears to be the High Commander. Admiral Miller nodded. Remember, we want to take control, not destroy. Set weapons to stun. Where possible, Olivia readied her weapon, a modified Valthrian energy pistol. On 3. 1, 2, 3. The team burst through the doors, weapons ready. The Valthrians on the bridge turned in shock, reaching for their own weapons. Energy blasts filled the air as both sides opened fire. High Commander Zex Tar roared in fury when he saw the intruders. "Humans, how dare you invade my ship?" The battle was brief but intense. The human team had the advantage of surprise, and many of the Valthrian systems were still malfunctioning from the virus. One by one, the alien crew fell to stunning blasts, or were subdued in hand-to-hand combat. Zex's Tar himself fought fiercely, his forearms wielding both energy weapons and a ceremonial blade, but he found himself cornered by Admiral Miller, Olivia Thompson, and Sam Wilson. "Surrender, High Commander," Miller demanded, his weapon trained on the alien leader. "Your invasion has failed. Order your forces to stand down or face the consequences." Zex Tar looked around his bridge, now controlled by humans. His officers were captured or unconscious. Through the main view screen he could see Earth, the planet that should have been an easy conquest, now the site of his greatest defeat. "Your species was supposed to be primitive," Zex Tar said, his translator conveying genuine confusion. "How did you defeat our superior technology?" "You mistook our technological development for the measure of our power," Miller replied, weapon trained on the alien. "But humanity's true strength isn't in our tools. It's in our will to survive, our creativity under pressure, and our refusal to submit." The High Commander lowered his weapon slowly. "I surrender." Within hours, the surrender was broadcast across Earth and to all Valthrian forces. Ships that had been part of the invasion fleet began pulling back from orbit. Ground forces laid down their weapons and submitted to human authority. In Geneva a week later, representatives from all Earth nations gathered with Valthrian officials to sign a formal peace treaty. The aliens would withdraw completely from the solar system, taking with them the knowledge that humans were not to be underestimated. As part of the agreement, the Valthrians provided advanced technology, properly vetted this time, that would accelerate human development by centuries. FTL travel, clean energy, medical breakthroughs. It was, in essence, the cultural exchange they had falsely promised at the beginning. After the ceremony, Lisa Rodriguez, who had been captured during the initial invasion and now served as Earth's chief negotiator, addressed the United Nations. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she said, her voice carrying to billions watching worldwide. "We've proven ourselves not just to the Valthrians, but to the galaxy. The stars are no longer just points of light to admire. They're destinations within our reach. And any civilization that might be watching should understand. Humanity comes in peace, but we will defend ourselves with unwavering resolve." Admiral Miller, standing at the back of the hall, shared a quiet smile with Olivia Thompson and Sam Wilson. They had led the resistance when all seemed lost. They had seen humanity at its best, united, determined, creative in the face of overwhelming odds. "What do you think is out there?" Olivia asked, looking up at the ceiling as if she could see through it to the stars beyond. "More like the Valthrians?" "Probably," Miller replied. "But they'll think twice before trying to conquer Earth." Sam laughed softly. "They thought they understood power. Then they saw humanity's wrath." In the vastness of space, word spread quickly of the small blue planet whose inhabitants had done the impossible, defeated the Valthrian Empire. Other species, some long subjugated by the same conquerors, looked toward Earth with a new emotion, hope, and humanity looked to the stars, no longer just with wonder, but with confidence. They had faced their first interstellar threat and survived. Whatever came next, they would be ready.